Thank you for the kind introduction. And I've met a few of you that arrived here early. Those of you over here, how's it going? Nice to informally meet you. So I'm Luke Story. In order for me to get an idea of what we're working with here so that I can sort of gear this talk one way or another, how many of you have ever heard my podcast, The Lifestylist? And don't feel obligated, that you have. Okay, cool. So you'll have an idea of what you're going for. And those of you that haven't, that just ended up here with a friend or because you love Next Health, it's good for me to know because then I can kind of, shape things in a way that might make sense. So what we're going to talk about tonight is very difficult to cover in the amount of time we have. I tend to be very detail-oriented, and I go into a lot of detail when I talk about things that I'm passionate about and things that I'm somewhat knowledgeable about. What we're going to talk about tonight is how to live in a city like Los Angeles, or a similar city, with the types of challenges we have here to our well-being in general, and give you guys some really a wake-up call in terms of what we are dealing with, and then some mitigation techniques of things that you can implement in your life so that you can thrive and still have the conveniences and the things that we love about the city. So covering a topic like that is huge. It's difficult to do in a concise way because there's just so much to it. So I think what I'll do, since about half of you are kind of familiar with my whole shtick and half of you are not, is I'm going to touch on maybe the top three issues that we're dealing with living in a city. And then if we want to go deeper, I can probably point you in the direction of a podcast or some other content where I've focused in on one particular thing. How's that sound? Good? Okay. Because we could, just if we get into water, we could be here for a month, I really geek out on all things health, and especially ways that I can be healthy and still have the conveniences that we have living in the city here. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. For those of you that don't know me, I'll just briefly say, my name's Luke Story. I used to work in the fashion industry for a long time, 17 years. 2 years ago, I retired from that and decided to pursue my passion, which is sharing information about health and spirituality with the world. And I have a podcast called The Lifestylist. You have a flyer on your seat for it, hopefully, and you can take that and check it out. I'm all about addressing the physical, but also the metaphysical. And we just recorded a podcast, as Dr. Shah was saying, where we talked about a bit of both of those. And so I do some talks where we only talk about meditation and mindfulness and prayer and yoga and all that. And then some are more focused on the physical. But I don't want to leave the metaphysical out. I want you to know that I'm well aware that that's a huge part of the puzzle. And I think even just having a really strong spiritual life will probably do more to mitigate some of the health challenges than even some of the techniques I'm going to talk about. But in the interest of time, I'm going to focus on the physical because that's kind of where we are. Next Health is on the cutting edge of all things alternative health in Los Angeles, and I'm sure other places soon as well. So we're going to dive into that, and as I said, I'm going to kind of give you the bad news and then the good news. Let's talk about the elements, all right? So we've evolved over however long we've been here. I'll leave that to the scientists in the room. A couple million years, maybe in this version, a couple 100,000 years, right? We've evolved to live in alignment with nature, in harmony with nature. So when you look at animals in the wild and you see how they live within solar and lunar cycles, they live off natural foods that grow out of the ground, or live off other animals that live off foods that grow out of the ground. They're drinking natural waters. They're swimming in natural waters. If left unattended, they know what to do, and they know how to survive, and they know how to thrive. And that's why animals, without our intervention or disturbance from pollution and what have you, do really well. And we used to do really well too. And this is where the whole paleo craze comes in, is the Paleolithic diet. And a lot of people are into that because, well, there's a lot of benefits, such as, less disease and less inflammation and things like that. But really, it's kind of just going back to the way that we used to live, or at least a facsimile of that. So we can't go back in time. We live in the world we live in. It's all polluted. It's crazy. It's madness. It's okay. We accept that. We don't get negative. We don't get afraid. But we can, like some people do with their diet, going back to eating foods in their most natural state, whether those be animals or plants, we can also create an environment, in an unnatural environment, that mimics what would be in nature. So I think of it sort of as Paleolithic lifestyle in a sense, right? Like creating a home, a paleo home. And I'm not even a big paleo guy. I don't know why I got off on that, but it illustrates the point. That if we can create a bedroom, a sleep cycle, live in a way that's more in alignment with nature, it just makes common sense. And on my podcast, I've interviewed a number of really smart people, scientists, brainiacs, PhDs, and I give them the theories that I'm about to share with you from just anecdotal experience, from common sense, from things that have come to me in meditation, realizations I've had while being out in nature, things I've discovered. And I got to tell you what, every person I've interviewed has agreed with most of the stuff that I'm about to tell you right now. Now, you might have someone who eats animals and another person doesn't. There's nuances to it, but in terms of environmental safety and health practices, the stuff that I'm about to drop is legit. And if you keep an open mind, you might find that it resonates with you because, again, it's based in nature. So let's first look at our water. A lot of people will look at a glass of water, like the one I've got here. Look, I have props. We'll look at a glass of water and say, yeah, it's just water. Water is water. It comes out of a tap. You go over there, you fill it up, you drink it. What's the big deal? Maybe if you're a little bit self-aware, you might run that water through a filter. But to most people, water is this sort of vague substance that we bathe in, sometimes swim in. We know there's a lot of it on the planet, and we try to drink water probably that's relatively clean and not polluted. We at least want safe water, right? We don't want pathogens, bacteria, and whatnot in it. That's why when you travel to some third world countries that don't have sanitary water, you get sick, right? But beyond that, I think even people that are really into health don't give a lot of thought to water. And for some reason, maybe it's because I'm a Scorpio, I'm a water sign, you know what I'm saying? I don't know why. But ever since I got into health, I became borderline obsessed with figuring out what the hell that stuff is and what's the best form of it that I can put in my body. Now, the reason that I think this is so important and so primary is we were just talking about this on the podcast, so sorry, guys, those of you that heard a lot of this stuff before. We just had an in-depth talk about this. But let's think about what happens when you die, right? If you're cremated, if you choose to go out that way, you end up with a little jar of powder, your ashes. Where is the rest of what was you? I'm just going to leave aside the philosophical part of this, which is kind of obvious that this is not you anyway. But let's say the physical part of you, what happens to it? Where did it go when you get burned up? They float bodies down the Ganges, light them on fire. What's left afterward? Nothing. You turn into steam. You become a little steam room. You go up in the atmosphere, right? Because you're water. Every fluid in your body is made of the water that you drank at some point. So your tears, your lymph, your blood, every fluid you can think of that comes out of your body is the water that you drank at some point in your life, probably the water that you drank recently. So you say around 70 to 90% of your physical makeup is just water. So to me, this comes before, I don't know, should I be vegan? Should I eat animals? Maybe I should eat organic, right? I mean, we shouldn't eat pesticides. This comes before that conversation. I'm not made of freaking kale. I'm not made of grass-fed beef. I'm mostly made of water. So, seeing as I'm made of water, it seems important to me to do a little research and find out what is the best sorts of water that I can put in my body and on my body, for that matter. A lot of people don't realize that the water that you put on your body is, in fact, water that you're putting in your body. Now, there's some memes that have been around in the health scene for a long time that say if you take a 10-minute shower, it's like drinking a glass of water. I've never seen any scientific proof of that, so I don't want to make that claim. But I can definitely tell you that you do inhale a lot of water vapor if you take hot showers, and if you sit in a bath or a pool or a hot tub, you're taking water in through your skin, which is your largest organ. Your skin is really a respiratory organ if you think about it, right? Stuff comes out, stuff goes in. We get that. That's why you don't want to use lotions and things like that that are full of toxins. It's like, where does it go? When you put something on you rub something into your arm, some lotion, and it disappears, where is it? It's in you. It goes in. Your skin breathes. So, the water that we're bathing in and the water that we're drinking in are both really important. And I can kind of, I guess, as I said before, give you the bad news first. Hopefully use that kind of I'm not selling you anything, so I feel good about doing it, but they call it problem, reaction, solution. You'll notice the media does this a lot. They get you all freaked out about something and then offer a solution. Controlling governments have a propensity to do that too. But I won't get off on that tangent. But I like that in a sense because you can get someone's attention by going, oh, damn. So we think about why wouldn't we want to drink just tap water, even why we wouldn't want to drink just normal kind of filtered water with any random filter like a Brita filter or something like that, right? Which, by the way, those really don't do anything. They even tell you on the packaging, it says something to the degree of it removes the smell of chlorine. It's like, I don't want to drink some water with the smell of chlorine removed. I want to drink water with the chlorine itself removed. Right? It's funny. Marketing's funny like that. But here are some of the things that are in water. Pharmaceutical drugs, trace amounts of those drugs. So psychotropic drugs, psych meds, right? Bipolar medicine, birth control pills, all pharmaceutical drugs end up in the water supply. Why? Because people flush them down the toilet, the pills. Also because people ingest them and then pee and poop into the toilet. And do you know where the water goes in most municipal systems in this country when you flush it down the toilet? It goes back into the water table and gets filtered and comes back up out of your tap. Bananas, yeah. Not all cities operate like that, but this one does in many places in LA. I've interviewed people that work in the municipalities, right, that work in water sanitation. And I go, well, if we have all these toxins in the water, how did it get there? And they go, it came out of someone's ass. That's how it got in there. I'm sorry to give you the bad news, but that's my job. So, sure, we can filter the water, but I just don't like the idea of drinking water that's been inside thousands and thousands and tens or maybe hundreds of thousands of people and is now coming back out of my sink, and I'm going to run it through a piece of charcoal filter that's that long? Like, what? Now, conversely, the water that I recommend, and has been, again, verified by a lot of really brilliant people that I've talked to about this, is true natural spring water from way up yonder in the mountains, right? So if you think about a Brita filter that's that long, it has the ability to filter out some things using minerals, essentially. It's got kind of earth elements in there, charcoal, rocks, dust, whatever the hell it's made of. Well, if you think about a mountain that's 10,000 feet tall from sea level, that's a 10,000-foot filter. That water's come from an aquifer at the bottom of that damn mountain, even in some cases under the mountain. We don't even know how deep they go. And it's come all the way up through all of that rock, all of that mineral matter. It's been filtered for hundreds and in some cases thousands of years by the time nature or God decides, boink, it's going to create a spring. That's why it's called a spring, because it springs forth. The earth cracks. You know, I'm sure, has anyone ever been to a natural spring? Up in the mountains, you're hiking, you're like, whoa, shit, here comes this little stream of water out of the middle of nowhere. It's not a creek, it's not a brook, it's not a stream, it's not a river, it's a spring. Boop, it sprung a leak, right? That's where that comes from. It's just this fantastic thing in nature, and there's something so fascinating about that to me, that the planet itself has enough wisdom to know that when water gets through the hydrological cycle, which we don't, in some cases, we don't even know how long that takes, that nature then decides, we're going to push this up to the surface because now it's ripe. And now it's time for that water to come to fruition. The water is matured. It's ready to feed the plants, to feed the animals, even the human animals, right? So it makes the most sense to me to get water from the source. Now, eventually, that water from that spring, it's 10,000 feet up in the pristine mountains of Colorado or Oregon or Maine or wherever it comes from, eventually that spring is going to go down into little creeks, and those are going to go down into rivers, and those are eventually going to end up back in the ocean, and then that water is going to evaporate, be brought up into the clouds. Those clouds are going to travel, the salt's going to be removed, and they're going to be dumped on the top of tall mountains as rain or snow, seep back down into the ground, then boop, hundreds or thousands of years later, bloop, it's going to pop back up and go through that cycle. Can you kind of visualize that? I wish I had a chalkboard, you know, to show the thing. But I just find that to be so fascinating. So, do I want to get water that's filtered through 10,000 feet of filter material or through 4 inches of filter material? Does that make sense? And there's also this other thing called primary water that they discovered recently, and that's water, this is some crazy shit, this is some voodoo here that nature or God does. Primary water is water that comes out of the earth and springs forth that's never been on the surface of the earth before. Where did it come from? voodoo. I don't know. The earth literally makes water. I mean, do you guys really think all the oceans flew here from outer space? That theory? I've never believed that theory. Like, how many damn asteroids with like a little bucket of water have to hit planet Earth, and like now we have 70% of this planet covered with water? Something about that is just doesn't add up to me. But the theory of the planet magically making water, I don't know, in my heart, in my gut, I'm like, yeah, the planet gives us water. That's just what I believe. Well, now primary water has been proven. So this is water that's not even ever been through that cycle. It just springs up. And that, my friends, is the chronic water, if you can get primary water, for many reasons. A, it's completely devoid of all industrial contamination because it's never been above ground since the Industrial Revolution. So it had no chance to pick up radiation, pharmaceuticals, fluoride, chlorine, chloramine, ammonia, God knows what else, heavy metals, lead, bacteria, all of that stuff, right? So to me, this is at the top of the hierarchy of water. And in the water system that I believe in, from my own experience and research, is not black and white. It's on a spectrum, right? You have the best of the best of the best, that pristine primary water that God just brought forth from the planet as this divine nectar, right? That's the top of the top, platinum level water. And then down from there you have some of the lower altitude springs and the ones that are a little higher in minerals and, you know, come from land that's not as pristine, that come from softer rock. So as it's filtered up, it picks up more minerals, which is not good. You don't want those kind of minerals. They're inorganic, meaning that when a water has a really high mineral content, those aren't minerals that you could get from plants. Plants have digested rocks and turned them into soluble minerals that your body can assimilate. You can't assimilate the minerals in water, just as an FYI. But like crappier, low altitude, high mineral spring water would be next. And then maybe reconstituted municipal or tap water that's been heavily filtered and then remineralized and re-energized and reactivated, which is kind of a process. There's not very many companies that actually produce filters that are able to do that, but there are a couple. And then below that, you have maybe bottled water in glass that hopefully came from a spring. One second. And then after that, maybe you've got bottled water in plastic. And plastic and food and plastic and water just aren't good things to mix because basically you're ingesting a certain amount of plastic if you drink plastic water. You know when you make sun tea? You ever make sun tea when you're a kid? You get a jar, you put some water, you put some tea, and then the sun makes tea. Well, the sun also makes plastic tea. That's called bottled water, especially if it gets exposed to light, because light is what degrades plastic, not heat. You can get plastic as hot as you want. It's not going to leach as much as it will being exposed to light. So if you get, you know, some crystal geyser or some of that fake-ass spring water, it's probably been sitting in a warehouse under fluorescent lights or been left outdoors or something, and that plastic degrades, and then you have an endocrine disruptor, meaning it jacks up your hormones because plastics act like estrogen to your body, and your body goes, oh, cool, we're going to get out of balance now and get all tweaked. So the water story kind of goes like that. There's a hierarchy of water, and I produced, as I said, a number of podcasts about this particular issue, and I also made a document, a PDF, because so many people had questions about this thing and people are starting to realize how important it is. So I put everything that I just said into a document, which I'm happy to share with you guys. It's super easy. Actually, if you want to text it to yourself or write it down, it's you can find it at lukestory.com/129. Or you can just ask me afterward or something if you don't want to get your phone. But you can download the PDF for free there, and it has all of the recommendations that I've found for the best filters and the best, you know, the best bottled water, the best spring water, and all of that. Because not everyone's in the position or live somewhere where they can go get their own spring water, like I've been doing for a long time, or have a company that will deliver unprocessed water. There is a company, if you live in Southern California, that I love. I've been using their water for years. It's called Live Spring Water, livespringwater.com. It's an old buddy of mine, and he's just like a spring water hunter like me, and he started a company. He goes up to Oregon. He got water rights on a property up there, had the water tested. It's pristine. I mean, amazing, clean, safe water. They pull the water from the spring. These guys are hardcore. Temperature also matters with water. When you expose water to light and to heat, it degrades the quality of the water if you want to get really geeky about it. because water should be kept like wine, cold and dark. That's how nature keeps it underground. So Makunde, my buddy that started Live Spring Water, taps the spring, or you don't have to tap it actually, it's already coming out naturally, fills up the bottles, puts them immediately in a refrigerated truck, drives them to a refrigerated warehouse that's dark and cold in downtown LA. You order it, they bring it back to your house in a refrigerated truck. So it's about as close to the source as you can possibly get. It's pretty cool. So that's livespringwater.com. If you don't live in LA area, or I think they do all of California now, you can go to a site called findaspring.com. And on findaspring.com, they have maps where you can put in your location. It'll tell you where the springs are in your area, and you can go there and collect your own water. And when you do that, I mean, the first time I did that, I was probably 5 or 6 with my grandmother in a place called Evergreen, Colorado, outside of Denver. And that's just what we did when I was a kid. You go out for a little hike and you fill up some bottles and you drink those for the next few days. It was just part of Colorado living, you know. I forgot about it until maybe 20 years ago. And I heard some health experts talking about it, and I said, shit, I've done that before. I used to get the water. I remember that energy. And when I picked it up again as an adult, I mean, there's nothing that compares to having the earth deliver some pristine water to your body that's mostly made of water. Does that make sense? It's like you're putting the most pure, the most pure substance that nature produces into your, unfortunately, polluted body. And when you drink spring water right from the source, it's alive, man. It's just, there's no other way to say it. It's very invigorating, a very special experience. So I just recommend, not only just as a health practice, but almost a spiritual practice, to get out there and lose the fear of nature. I mean, I tell people I go get spring water, and can't you die? I go, dude, you drink tap water. You're drinking birth control pills and like psych meds. You're worried about me drinking from a spring? Are you kidding me? Your water's been in someone's butt before. Like, let's get real. Not just someone, like tens of thousands of people's butts. Like, ew. I mean, it's terrifying. This thing right here has got butt water in it. It's made with LA ice. I mean, I know the owner here, Khalil, he's been on my show, the co-founder of Sun Life over here. I'm sure they filter the water, but still, it's like LA tap water in the ice cubes, right? So that's the bit on the drinking water, and I haven't forgotten about your question. Again, just get the PDF and everything I said, because it's probably, to some of you, you might know this, some of you are like, wait, what? Where do oh no, I don't want to drink butt water. Like, I've got you covered. It's in a free PDF, at least, you know, based on my research and experience, everything that I've learned so far in many years of diving into this, is in that PDF, you know, all the companies, all the filters, if you want to go that route and all that. So next you have your bathing water. And not to be an alarmist, but I just have to say this because God knows what my little body was put through when I was a baby. But if you have kids, man, especially a really newborn baby or an infant, please, please don't bathe them in just raw dog tap water, especially if it's warm. It's really, really toxic stuff. So for yourself as an adult, love yourself, love your inner child. Still filter your bath water and your shower water. But man, if you have a kid, it's really important because their immune systems are still building, right? Their immune systems are not used to fluoride and chloramine and chlorine and all the crazy toxins that are in water. So they're literally like getting scrambled. They do not have the defenses for it. We eventually, over time, unfortunately, kind of get used to it, and our body builds up certain defenses to toxic loads like that, but little kids are just not ready for that. So there's a couple things you can do to take care of your bathing water. There are a couple companies, and unfortunately just a couple, that make really hardcore shower filters if you want to do it locally at the site. Again, they're in the PDF thing. There are, for the bath, this kind of sucks, but for the bath, the best we've got are these little globes that you kind of hang from the spigot, and they filter the water as it goes through the little globe. There's some filter material in there. Not a huge fan. I don't think they're that effective, but still better than nothing. So that's if you live in an apartment and you can't do a whole house kind of filter situation. You can do the shower head and you can do the tub. But if you live in a house, to me the best thing to do is just drop some coin on a whole house filter so that all of your bathing water is legit, And at least the water that maybe you make soup or coffee or cook with can also be that filtered processed water. But I would still recommend drinking like your actual water, drinking true spring water. So if you have a house, you just nuke the whole thing so that every tap in the house is filtered. If you live in an apartment, you can't do that. So you just filter locally at the source. The thing is with showers too, that's really gnarly is having your skin exposed to certain chemicals is bad, right? Drinking it's bad. Also, you also kill your gut flora and cause dysbiosis by drinking tap water because it's disinfectant, right? So you're disinfecting the bacteria in your gut, another fringe benefit. But one of the main issues with showering in toxic water is now you're creating essentially new chemical compounds by making that water into gas. So water has different forms that it comes in, liquid, solid, gas, etc., right? Well, you're taking these chemicals that are bad on their own if you drank them, but then you're turning them into a poisonous gas, quite literally. As if that's not bad enough, when those gases then combine with one another, you're creating new compounds that we don't even know what they are. Like chloramine is what they use to disinfect LA tap water. Chloramine is chlorine mixed with ammonia. That creates a whole other chemical. They haven't even tested what chloramine does to you if you drink it. They kind of know what ammonia does, they kind of know what chlorine does, but they don't know what chloramine does because it's a different compound now. So imagine thousands of chemicals now turned into a vapor in the shower. So showering is gnarly. I mean, I'll never take hot showers. I mean, I take cold showers for other reasons, a different conversation, but I mean, every once in a while I turn on the hot water, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Now I know why people do this. It feels kind of good. But I just take cold showers because it's practice that I have, but it's also great because you don't have to worry about breathing in those toxic fumes. And the last thing I'll say on this, and then I'll get to the question over here if you still have it, is I would highly recommend avoiding steam rooms. A lot of people think that steam rooms are healthy because you go in there and sweat. No, when you go in a steam room, what you're doing is breathing in thousands of toxic gases. Unless you're psycho like me and you go to Equinox and get the manager and grill them about the source water that they're using to create the steam. Now, I haven't checked the guys here in this mall. I'm not even a member there, but I'm so psycho that I asked for a friend of mine. I checked the one on Wilshire and Miracle Mile. The manager, whole thing. They're like, let me check, let me find out. And they say, oh, no, it's triple filtered. We're aware of that issue, and the water is super clean. There's no chemicals in it. Amazing. Great. Steam room, awesome in that case. But if you're going to kind of the hoopty local gym, it's like, yeah, you know, the cheap one that you got the monthly on because they have the same machines, basically. You're going in the steam room like, yeah, I really took care of myself today. Self-care day, hashtag no. Bad stuff. Breathing in a lot of nasty, nasty critters there. So, so that's kind of the piece on water, and then I'm going to cover two more topics, and then we'll do questions. But what's yours? Go ahead on the water one if you had it. Then I can drink for a sec.
Structured water, that's generation, like my country defroze and then froze back. Currently does something structured. Distilled water and a hot sauna with no steam.
Okay, so I'll go backwards. So one of the questions was, what about a sauna with no steam? Oh my God, sauna's amazing. It's one of the things I was going to talk about if I get to it. Saunas don't have steam. The steam inside a sauna is coming from your body, right? However, there are some saunas, like I go to this Russian spa. I love Russian spas with the really hot saunas and the cold plunges. And I just went to one recently over on Pico in La Brea. It's called LA City Spa. Amazing. I've been driving by there for 30 years. And finally one day I was like, I should just check it out. I was like, this place is dope. So at that place, great sauna, but here's what... Yeah, I know, sorry about that. I did that to Beverly Hot Springs. I talked about it for so many years now. I went there today, I was like, it's too crowded, God damn it. And I thought, well, stop telling people. I just can't be selfish. But at that spa, what I noticed a couple weeks ago is these guys come in with these huge buckets of water and they pour it on the rocks. I was like, oh, that's great, it's getting hot. And I was like, wait a minute, not to be paranoid. I was like, where did that water come from? That's tap water. Or maybe water from the pool with chlorine in it. And now I'm like breathing in that gas. Now I'm not gonna go tell the big Russian guy, to, hey, listen, I don't appreciate that toxic water. Could you not pour the water on it? I'm sensitive, you know. Just, you take the hit. I mean, with all of this stuff, here's the thing. Awareness is key, right? You have the awareness, but then you let it go. Because the fear will kill you faster than the goddamn water. Can't live in fear in tinfoil hat land, but with the awareness, what's happened for me is make slight, slight changes incrementally to my lifestyle. Like I go drop $160 on a really good shower filter, done and done. Like I'm not thinking about that for another 6 months to a year. You know, it depends how many people use the shower. Only one uses mine currently, so it lasts quite a while. But I don't sit in the shower like, oh my God, the water's touching me. I mean, like if you get neurotic about it, it's a fine line and then you get unhealthy. So back to your structured water question. The structured water thing is interesting. In nature, in those springs I'm describing, the water is inherently of a different structure. And that's when I started out. I said, you know, we all just see a glass of water. It's this, oh yeah, it's this clear liquid. Water is water. It's all the same. No, it's not the same because it all has a different energetic signature and it all has a different molecular structure, right? So when water travels in nature, it's really interesting. If you look at the work of Victor Schauberger, he discovered water, when you watch water in a river, it looks like it's going like that. It's not. When water travels in nature, it travels like that. It twists and turns in a vortex. It's like a corkscrew. That's how water moves, left to its own devices. It's fascinating. So in the process of water moving inside a mountain made of rock, that's how it moves through the rock. It's crazy. So when water comes out in its most pristine natural state, that water is inherently structured, meaning the molecules have a different arrangement than they would coming out of right-angled pipes like they do with tap water. So do I think structured water is a real thing? Yeah. Do I think that you can use devices and sunlight and all different things to change the structure? Yeah. I have this thing called a vitalizer at home. It spins your water like a tornado, says it restructures it, probably does. Is it worth the $600 I spent on it? I don't know, but it's fun to watch. It's doing some shit. It's a good party trick. You don't need to structure your water if you get it from a spring and if you drink it relatively fast. But that's the strange thing too about water is once it sits for a while, it goes flat. Water has gas in it, natural gas, right? And I discovered this from getting spring water from a spring that's about 6,000 feet up. And I'd fill up my big glass carboys, they're called. They're 5-gallon glass bottles. They're made for home brewing, right? So one day I went up, I filled my whole car up, which I do every few months. There's a great spring in Big Bear, which is in that document, by the way. You can pull your car over and fill up your bottles. Pristine, tested, clean water. So I fill up, and I went and put them all in my basement. I was living in a house at that time, and it had this little basement where the water heater was. Unfortunately, it was a hot room, not a cold room, but it was concrete, and it was dark. So I go, I load all the water in there, and I'm sleeping in the middle of the night, and I wake up to boom! I was like, oh shit, I grabbed my gun, walking out of the bedroom, half asleep, what the hell? And I looked down and it's just flooded. And Second Amendment, we have that. So if you live alone in a house, you want a gun, trust me, especially in the Hollywood Hills. I would look at the crime reports, I'd be like, every house has been broken into this week except mine. But anyway, there's water all over the floor. And I'm like, what the F? Who's in here? And I'm freaking out, I'm half asleep. And then I opened that closet door and one of those water bottles had freaking exploded. Because that water is still alive. There's still natural gas in the water, and I had the rubber cap on, and so the pressure had built up from changing altitudes. Fascinating stuff. I mean, I'm sure, someone that understands physics in the room is like, duh, that happens because the molecule did it. I don't know. There's just some weird stuff that happens. But that water is structured, but if you let it sit too long, then the water goes flat. Like if you buy a Pellegrino and you leave the cap off for a few hours, it's like, it's flat. Well, non-carbonated natural water goes flat too. And I say flat in quotations because it loses its structure. Because again, let's go back to God. Let's go back to nature. In nature, does water ever just sit still? No, it's always moving. If water sits still, you don't drink that water because then it's going to have life in it, right? Life can't really proliferate in water that's really moving, especially inside a mountain, inside a spring, because there's no oxygen to support life. Once you bring water out of the mountain, out of the earth, and expose it to light and oxygen, now it can grow stuff. So it's strange, the whole magical world of water. Distilled water, to me, would be the same as reverse osmosis. That's water that's going to be clean, but it's also going to have everything positive removed from it as well. So my personal, again, this is just my opinion, you could remineralize and sort of reactivate or restructure heavily processed waters, but that's sort of like, I don't know, that's like buying like a TV dinner of a burrito that's frozen and like You know, like soaking it in the sink and put it in the oven, trying to bring it back to life. You know what I'm saying? It's not a great analogy, but it's still processed water. It's still water that you've changed its natural state to such a degree that now you have to try to mimic again what nature did in the first place. So if I lived in New York City, for example, it's hard to go find, you know, springs and fill up 5-gallon glass bottles and carry them up to your 3rd floor walk-up or whatever. So I would probably, in a city like that, get some hardcore ass filter and then re-mineralize the water with some salt or ocean minerals and then put it in my little restructured thing and try to mimic spring water essentially. In some cases, that's the best you can do. Again, it's on that spectrum of platinum level, best ever in the universe, to like worst ever, which is maybe tap water in Bangkok or something just straight out of the toilet. You know? But in that spectrum, you have options. Okay, yeah?
I'm guessing that the half-drunk, expensive water in a plastic container that I leave in the hot car overnight is really, really bad to drink the next day.
You know, you can taste the plastic in water that's been excessively heated, but I would worry more about the light, because light is what degrades plastic more so than heat. Think about if you leave, you know, say you have some plastic out in your yard, like a plastic bucket or something like that, or an old planter, right? If it's in the shade, it'll sit there forever. If you put it in the sun, in a couple months, it's going to turn brittle and crack up. It's the sun that did that, right? So, you know, I just try to avoid plastic altogether. One of the best things about getting spring water delivered or going and getting your own, it's also better for the environment because I never use plastic bottles. I have my own, this is a different story. I have this one going now. It's a totally crazy ass conversation we don't have time for. But when I'm not on this particular water, which is totally crazy ass other thing, honestly, we literally don't have time for it. But I never drink plastic bottled water because I just fill up a bottle every morning when I leave. It's part of my routine. So I go over to my dispenser and I have my own glass or like a metal vessel that I just throw in my bag, and I have that in the car so I don't have to stop and buy a Fiji or whatever. So you save the environment and also just save money. The only time I really buy bottled water is at the airport because they don't let you take your own water in. Yeah. I had no idea I was going to go on water this long.
Are you familiar with the Halo system, the filtration system for the whole home? And if so, I just wondered your thoughts on that.
I am not familiar with the Halo system, but I'll look into it. There's the two best filters I found, and then I'm going to cover briefly the 2 other elements I want to talk about. The 2 best ones I found are both from here in Southern California. One's called Pristine Hydro, and they're based in Laguna Beach. I think the whole house system is $1,200 or something like that. Don't quote me. Sounds like a lot, but if you think about how much you spend on bottled water. I always say, hey, have you ever priced dialysis or chemo? You know, that's what's coming later if you don't spend your money on your body now. Pristine Hydro. And then the other one that's just totally next level is called Ophora water. And they're in Santa Barbara. That's OPHORA, Ophora water. And those guys make they crazy ass filter. They remineralize, they restructure, but then they oxygenate the water to a really high concentration. And they also make hot tub units where your water is not only just pristinely filtered, but it's hyper oxygenated. And it's like doing a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. It's crazy amazing. That's Ophora water in Santa Barbara. Not cheap, but definitely like, don't buy a BMW and like buy their filter. You know what I mean? It's like, it's on that level.
If you buy one of these filters, can you then drink out of your tap, or is it still like...
No, I mean, one of those would be the optimal to me of all the filtration system I found, which is drinkable. But personally, I would still drink spring water if I have the opportunity. Again, first world problems, I acknowledge that. A lot of people around the world would be happy to get any goddamn water. And if you throw me out in the middle of the desert or the Sahara, I'm going to drink goat pee if I have to. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's on a spectrum. So we're talking about the ultimate to the all-time worst. And it just depends how you're situated, you know, and where you live. If you live somewhere there's no springs, then you got to filter your municipal water, because even just buying bottled water by the case is not only bad for the environment and just wasteful, it's also a hassle. Every time I go to New York, I order this water from the company delivered to my hotel. It's called Saratoga water. It comes in this really pretty blue bottle. It's great spring water from upstate New York. But I have to order 6 cases of it. So it's like my hotel room would just be littered with all these bottles because one lasts me an hour. So I use it for everything in my life there, you know. So it's not practical long term to buy like glass spring water in those cases. It's just wasteful and a pain in the ass. I got to move on to, we'll get to you in a sec, hopefully, but I got to get on to 2 other things. How much time do I have left, my man? 20 minutes left? All in? Including questions. God damn it. Why don't I just call these talks like, tonight we're talking about water. Come back next month, we'll talk about light. And then next month we'll talk about EMFs. Those are the 3 things I wanted to cover. All right, I'll see if I can do this in a concise way and we'll take a couple questions if there are any. Oh, my light thing is actually going to make sense right now. I can practice what I preach. So, going back to evolution, we know that humans were a lot healthier when we were living off the land, hunter-gatherer style, right? I mean, it's just a fact. The diseases we have now, we didn't have back in the day, before agriculture, before we industrialized the world. We were a much healthier species. We were not domesticated. We were wild. We were feral. We were beasts. And you can see this through archaeological records going back as far as we know, okay? So that's that Paleolithic sort of way to eat. And now we've covered natural water. Well, we've also evolved in natural light. Light is a nutrient. You know, your body is covered from head to toe in photoreceptors. It's not just your eyes that take in light, it's your skin that takes in light. And when your body takes in different spectrums, meaning a different temperature of light, it does different things to your body. And contrary to popular belief, the sun is actually the most potent vitamin in the world. It's not poison. We've been made afraid of the sun via companies that started making sunscreen in the 1950s. That's all fake news, guys. It's all propaganda that the sun kills you and causes cancer. You know what causes cancer? Sunscreen. For 2 reasons. It's full of toxins and it cuts out 50% of the spectrum of light. You have UVA, you have UVB, ultraviolet A and B. That's what's in nature. That's how we've evolved. When you put on sunscreen, you're cutting out 50% of the spectrum. So your skin that has the intelligence to read the spectrum of light hitting it from nature, from the sun, goes, what the F is that? I don't know what that is. Malfunction. Not to say I don't want you to go out and get sunburned. I mean, you can sun safely. There's a whole process to it. But what I'm getting at here is that there's a certain spectrum of light in nature, and it happens at certain times. What's happening right now is the sun is going down over the horizon, and so it's getting dark outside. So what I just did right there is I just told my entire biological system that it's getting dark, that it's nighttime, also in here. Because without these on, and you know, I mean, these aren't, they're pretty fashionable for most blue blockers. I had them custom made. You should see the ones I used to wear. Like the ones from Amazon, yeah, not getting laid anytime soon with those on. But anyway, I digress. When it gets dark outside, it's not dark in here. So there's a mismatch. There's a biological mismatch. Your body clock through your skin and your eyes is going, what? I'm scrambled. This doesn't make sense. Because when you look at these lights, and this is a healthy environment here, we're coming here for our health, and you know I love you guys. But anywhere you go indoors that has light that's white color, is telling your brain and your body that it's noon right now. So I could keep talking, and believe me, I could, until 2 a.m. and we'd be sitting under this light. Your brain literally thinks it's still noon all day long. It thinks it was noon for the past 12 hours. I mean, just think about on a fundamental, basic level how that would be confusing to your body. Do I want to go live out in the woods and only subsist on moonlight, starlight, and firelight that I make? I can barely make a goddamn fire. It's not as easy as it looks in the movies. You take me camping, I'm like, give me 3 hours and I'll make a spark. It's hard. I don't want to do that. I want to walk home and be like, blink, light switch, bright-ass lights. I want light when I want it, how I want it, right? So I want to live in the city. I want to live here. I want the conveniences. However, I have to realize that there's a cascade of really serious health problems that come as a result of not living in alignment with the natural spectrum of light, meaning the color or temperature of light, and the timing of light. Your circadian rhythm is what regulates so many systems in your body, your endocrine system, your hormones, your neurotransmitters, your mood. You know how many people are on antidepressants just because they get blue light all night and they don't go out in the sun all day? I mean, do you want to like the best antidepressant in the world? You guys want the secret? It's free, there's no side effects. Well, there could be side effects. It's called going outside in the goddamn sun naked. I'm serious. Safely. I mean, not to the point where you burn. It depends on your pigmentation, right? How much sun you can handle. Like this dude right here, you can handle some sun. I can handle some sun too. I've built up. I'm kind of Mediterranean, you know, Italian, and so I can handle the sun. I have a friend though who's very fair-skinned, ginger, right? I always thought he was Irish. I found out he's Jewish. There turns out there's Jewish gingers. Who knew? My friend Harrison, he's from Chicago, probably never saw the sun his goddamn life. He's like 25. He goes, okay, I get the sun thing, Luke, but how can I do that? I'll burn and then I'll get skin cancer. I said, here's how we're going to do it. You're going to go outside naked in your backyard. The first day you're going to go for 2 minutes. The next day you're going to go for 5 minutes. Then 6, 7, on and on and on until you work up to maybe 10 minutes out there in the morning. Now he rolls at the beach, shirt off. He hangs out with the rest of us brown-skinned people like nobody's business. He's got more freckles. Hella more. He's one big freckle, essentially. But he's feeling good. His vitamin D levels are up. You know, his neurotransmitters are up. His sleep's good. Now he's producing melatonin when he's supposed to and cortisol when he's supposed to. So after I saw that kid do it, the most fair person I've ever personally known that wasn't from a TV show or something, like actually I know the guy who's that orange all over, if he can do it, anyone can do it. So the importance of light as a nutrient, the ultimate vitamin. It's no accident that ancient civilizations worship the sun. You know, we kind of look at them like, oh, those dumbasses, they thought that thing was important. I mean, didn't you think like that? You're like, worship the sun? Don't you guys know about Jesus? Duh. No, they worship the sun not because they were dumb, because the sun is God's gift to the planet, well, to the solar system in general, right? The sun is where all the energy comes from. So it's being in alignment with the sun and getting sun exposure. Now, we'll have to work for a living, so we might have to work under artificial lighting that does not in any way resemble the natural spectrum of light in nature. So what can you do? Well, you can change the lighting in your home environment, or in some cases your office environment, to be more of a warm color tone. You can install orange bulbs or red bulbs. That's what I do at home. My night setup is orange and red. So I come in the house, I go, oh, don't hit that switch. That's going to be the fake noon light. I'm going to hit this switch, and everything's orange. So when it gets dark outside in my home, it gets dark inside, figuratively. So I still use light. Same thing wearing the glasses if I go out. And then there's also amplification of some of the healthy spectrums of light, like red light, which we have here. If you guys haven't seen it, you definitely want to check it out after the talk. They have an amazing red light bed. So that's narrowing down some of the more supportive and health and life-giving spectrums that exist in natural sunlight, concentrating them and putting them into the photoreceptors in your body that have a multitude of benefits. So I have a unit at home called a Juve, and I use that thing every day, at least once a day, if not twice a day. Boosts testosterone, it's good for your skin, reduces inflammation, reduces wrinkles, speed heals scars. It's fantastic, and that's also what the sun does. However, that spectrum of light has only the good spectrum, whereas indoor lighting, or what we call blue light or junk lighting, has a spectrum that's in a very narrow spectrum, but it's the lighting that's actually not good for you, especially if it's after dark. So getting good sun, good for you. The sun is not evil. The sun is from the Creator. It's the most epic vitamin in the world, the best biohack ever. Amplifying the use of certain frequencies of light using what's called red light therapy, which you can do here. And then the last thing, and I'll take a couple questions, is, I have to do this in a concise way, is what we call non-native EMFs. So I just talked about junk lighting. That's non-native spectrums of light in the wrong temperature at the wrong time. Non-native meaning it's alien. It doesn't exist on this planet unless humans invent it. You have something called non-native EMFs, which is electromagnetic frequencies. There's 3 types: magnetic, electric, and radio. So this is all the machinery in your house, your microwave oven, your refrigerator, air purifiers, anything with a motor or an engine, anything that's plugged in, all the wiring in your house, every lamp, every device, all of that stuff is going to have a magnetic or electrical field that's deleterious to your health. Your body doesn't recognize those fields, those frequencies. Why? Because they don't exist in nature. So we haven't evolved with the equipment to withstand that barrage of invasion. The last frequency is radio frequencies, which is produced by your cell phone, by Wi-Fi, and cell towers, and all of that stuff that's becoming so widely used, especially in urban environments like this. So the EMF thing is one of those, it's serious tinfoil hat zone because you can't see it, right? And we're like, what? I'm fine. I don't see any EMFs. I feel amazing. Right in this field in here, though, as healthy as this place is, and in everyone's bedroom and office, you're getting exposed to all of this ionizing radiation. You're really being cooked from the inside out. It's super gnarly. So again, without going on the spectrum of being paranoid, because that's even more unhealthy, you know, fear is really bad for your immune system. Again, going back to awareness, like, okay, cool, I'm going to pull my head out of the sand. I'm getting critiqued a lot because I swear lately, so I'm working on it. It's tough. I'm going to pull my head out of the sand. I'm going to acknowledge that there is a scientific basis to the dangers of electromagnetic frequencies on my body. And I'm going to make a few minor tweaks. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of those tweaks, and then we'll go into the stratosphere of the most hardcore tweak, okay? First one is, for the love of God, don't make me codependent. I do this to all my friends. They're like, yeah, so anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, are you kidding me? You put your phone up to your head? Dude, you're nuts. You know how much radiation comes off your phone? No, you don't. But if you had an EMF meter and you put it up to your phone and saw what the safe levels are, it's unsafe to be about 4 to 6 feet away from your phone. That's still harming you. This is not pseudoscience, this is real. To have your phone up to your head is complete insanity. It's insane. You're literally cooking your brain. If you're going to put it up against anything, like strap it to your ankle or something, you know? You don't want it near your reproductive organs, your heart, or your head. My dad used to walk around with his cell phone like this. You know, old school, old dudes carry their shit right here, driving the truck. And I used to be sitting there like, don't be codependent, don't be controlling. Luke, don't say anything. I'm like, I can't stand it. Dad, give me your phone. Put it on airplane. So here's what you do. Super simple fix. It's called talk out here on speakerphone. It lacks privacy, admittedly, but, you know, you go in the other room. The other thing you can do, of course, is use a headset. However, headsets also carry radiation from the device right into your head. So Dr. Mercola has like a air tube ones that I haven't tried, but less radiation. For me, I just always keep my phone far away from me. If it's ever in my pocket, it's always on airplane. I'm a really annoying friend. Dude, I text you. What you said you were dead. Nah, sorry, airplane. Not happening. In the bedroom, always on airplane all night. I've coached people that are like, oh, I would never sit and talk on the phone with the phone up to my head. Luke, I'm not an idiot. And I go, where's your phone at night? And they go, right under my pillow. Is it on airplane? What? Why? No, I got to get calls. Really? No, you don't. You're going to get a call to the coroner is what you're going to get a call for. So cell phone, and then also another, this one's a little bit of an adjustment. I've done it though, and that is running Ethernet in your house and turning your Wi-Fi off. It's a pain in the ass. Took me, you know how long it took me to make that adjustment? It took me about probably 10 minutes to go on Amazon and find the right 50-foot Ethernet cable. Took me another 30 minutes to run that cable from my office closet and hammer those little things in, you know, the baseboard so it wasn't all janky, out to my living room, and then it runs up in between the sofa cushions. The whole project took me probably 1 hour, and now I just don't use Wi-Fi. Kind of a pain in the ass to sit on the couch and like plug your laptop in. Admittedly, not that awesome, but much more awesome than getting testicular cancer or whatever the hell happens to you when you live in all those Wi-Fi fields. right? So a little bit of an adjustment. But imagine before we even had internet. You'd be stoked if someone's like, hey, guess what? You can connect to the whole world any second you want, but you have to grab this cable between your couch cushions and like shove it in this little hole in your computer. I mean, you'd be like, oh my God. So imagine there is no Wi-Fi. If that's too hardcore for you, what you can do is put your Wi-Fi router on a timer so that it goes off when you're sleeping. So at least you're not getting that radiation blast while you're sleeping. Amazon timer, 12 bucks, boom, set it. I have a timer on mine just in case I have it on for guests or something like that. It goes off like 1 a.m. and turns back on at 7 a.m. Those are kind of the hours that I'd probably want to use it, right? So at least I get a little reprieve while I'm sleeping. Now those are the two easiest fixes. Next, if you want to get hardcore, if you really want to take this stuff seriously, what you do is you hire what's called an EMF mitigation specialist. I just realized all the pictures are going to look super janky with all my garbage everywhere. There. I did photo shoots for 17 years. I can't help think about stuff like that. I'll get the pictures back and I'm like, God damn it, why didn't I move the smoothie? If you want to be badass, super ninja, you hire a mitigation specialist. They come in your house with about $10,000 worth of equipment. They walk around and go, and they find something under your bed that you didn't even know was there. On the floor below you, there's a freaking overhead light on your apartment neighbor downstairs, and that overhead light is right into your bed, and your bed's like 2 feet off the ground, and you're getting your organs fried every night by an electrical field. Or your neighbor's Wi-Fi router is right under your head where you sleep because that's where their office is. You don't know that because these fields are invisible and walls are not. But if you get someone who's a mitigation expert, they'll come in with all of their little beeps and buzzes, and you'll be able to see. When you have empirical evidence right there, right in front of you, it's much more impactful because it takes the tinfoil hatness out of it. And you're like, damn, what's the safe level? Oh, safe level is 100, sir. And what's the level under my bed? 10,000. What do I do? Once a specialist comes in and reads the fields in your home and discovers all those hidden little goblins in your walls and coming from a cell phone tower that you didn't even know was like a mile from your house and is blasting you every night, then what you can do is two things. And this gets a little expensive and a little laborious. This is a commitment. But after all these years, I truly believe this is the #1 intervention that you can make, especially if you're sick. If you have autoimmune, Lyme, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, any of those hardcore diseases, you gotta shield your bedroom. #1, ground zero. I'm telling you, after 22 years into this stuff, just geeking out, as you can probably tell. How you shield your bedroom is one of two ways. Cheapest way and easiest way is you get a bed that has 4 posts on it. I happen to have one of those, ironically, and I'm gonna do this myself soon, this October. And you get shielding fabric, and you get it customized to fit over your bed. There are some companies developing these now. They're called a canopy, and people are getting wise to this. There's a huge market, by the way, for you entrepreneurs. You get shielding fabric and design something that you can just throw up over your bed that doesn't look totally disgusting. They're going to become more widely available moving forward, guaranteed. Give it like the next 2 or 3 years. There'll be a lot of options. Right now, you got to go a little homespun. You get a 4-post bed. You get the fabric, you have it covered, you put a mesh on the floor under the bed. Then you have what's called a Faraday cage. A Faraday cage eliminates all fields around you. So literally, you would go inside your little bed kind of tent thing, and your phone will be dead. Nothing will work in there. No electrical fields will come in, and no radio frequencies, i.e. radiation, will get in either. It's amazing. I've been inside one of these things. It feels like you're in the woods in 1685. It is so still, so quiet, so calming, so relaxing. The most amazing thing ever. That's what I'm doing. My bedroom might look like some shit out of The Hobbit or something. I don't know yet. You know, I'm just going to have to sacrifice a little design, perhaps, but I'll feel well. Thank you. Next thing, next level, which when I move into a house probably that I own, this is what I'll do. After I do the bed thing, is you can shield your whole bedroom so that your whole bedroom is a Faraday cage, not just your bed itself. How you do that is using a couple different tools. You don't do it, you have the entire room painted with what's called shielding paint. Shielding paint, once it goes on a wall, no frequencies can go in or out past that paint. It has minerals and stuff in it that prevent that. So it's shielding paint. Then the experts that install it will ground the paint into the electrical system of the building down into the ground. So all of that material that's on the walls now is grounded. And then you have shielding fabric that you either make curtains out of, or you just have your curtains that exist already lined with shielding fabric. And then you do the floor with the mesh. Essentially, you have all 4 walls totally shielded, and your bedroom is like a cave in prehistoric times. It's called paleo sleeping. I mean, that's a name I just invented. But you get the idea, right? Again, it sounds crazy, but it's just going back to nature. And why the bedroom is so important if you're going to do any type of EMF mitigation is because when you sleep is when your body detoxes and restores itself. You know, that's when you're detoxing things like heavy metals. That's when your immune system is fighting parasites and dysbiosis in your gut, bad bacteria, all of the stuff that your body would normally be able to ward off by itself that we now use surgery and pharmaceuticals for. Your body has the power and energy to do that. When it does it is when you're sleeping, because that's when you're in a truly parasympathetic state and your nervous system says, okay, we're sleeping now, we let our guard down. Now we let all of those systems within your body do the work that they're designed to do. That can't happen if your body's being hammered with EMFs while you sleep. So I told you I'd give you the good news and the bad news. So that's your water, your light, and then the electrical fields. The last thing I'll say on the electrical fields is how important it is to touch the ground, to get your bare feet on ground as much as possible. Me personally, I have some mandals that I wear around. They're called earth runners. They have a little metal plug on the bottom. And then the straps have metallic thread in them. So anytime I'm on a grounded surface like concrete, sand, earth, I'm electrically grounded to the planet, which again, going back to nature, is how we've evolved to exist. There's not one animal on the planet right now, and has never been, with the exception of birds in flight or migration, that aren't electrically grounded 100% of their entire life. Every single creature on Earth is either touching ground, a tree or plant, or the earth their entire life, unless they're flying. Think about that. And we're like, cool, let's make rubber-soled shoes in multi-story buildings that are disconnected. We'll be awesome. It's not happening. So you can get grounding technologies and things, but I think the best is just getting outside and getting barefoot on the ground, especially being grounded when you're getting sun, because you are getting a certain degree of radiation and oxidation that's present with, you know, the sun's radiation, and that's mitigated by your being grounded. I got time for a 2-second question. Yes, sir. And there was one back here. We'll get to yours if you still have it. Yeah.
I have a friend when she sleeps with the EMF, pre-made EMF canopy over the head.
Oh, cool.
Because, you know, if you live in an apartment, you know, you're getting, even if you turn your router off, you go on, you can pick up 15 people's Wi-Fi. But even if she has it over the bed, or if I put it over my bed, what about the ground, like the light?
Yeah, so the question is, for those that couldn't hear, his friend has what's an EMF shielding canopy that, you know, they make them, it sort of looks like a mosquito net. Yeah. Is that what she has? Yeah, so it's like gathered at the top and then it comes down in sort of a pyramid shape, right? So it covers the bed. And he's suggesting that there's an issue because underneath the bed is still getting frequencies that come up through. Yeah, totally. So what you'd have to do is get shielding mesh and put that under the bed. And then she is living in a Faraday cage. There might be a couple leaks here and there if it's not done right, but it's a hell of a lot better. And I'll add to that, because you mentioned having, you know, maybe I shut my Wi-Fi off and I run Ethernet, but if I live in a huge apartment building, I pick up 30 signals, like why even bother? It does matter because distance is everything when it comes to radiation. Well, and electrical field, all the fields actually. So like I said earlier, if my cell phone's on and it's, when your phone's trying to find a signal and when it's connecting, that's when it produces the most radiation. By the way, so the worst thing you can ever do is have a call connecting and put it to your head. Once it connects, it's actually safer to have it, I mean, it's still stupid, but safer to have it to your head than it is when it's connecting. When your phone's trying to reach the towers, it's gnarly. But it's all about distance. So when my phone's over right here, or a Wi-Fi router, bad. But if I get way over here, it's a little bit better. If it's my neighbors and it's like 30 feet over there and down 10 feet, it's way easier on your system than your router that's 6 feet away. So distance does help. Even if you can pick up those signals on your computer and you're like, shit, there's 30 Wi-Fi signals trying to reach me, they're very faint in most cases compared to the one that's on your floor. Because there's distance not just between here and there, but also from high to low. It might be like 2 floors down. That's another 40 feet or whatever it is. See what I'm saying? So yeah. But the Faraday bed thing, I'm telling you, smart entrepreneurs are going to get on that. And you'll have a little kit. You just throw up in your bed. It's no big deal. Like when you make your bed, then I'll just take down the EMF thing, throw it on the bed. It's like travel, every hotel, pop it up, little tent. It'll just be, everyone will just have that. Everyone that's smart. Yeah? One sec, we'll do your smart meters. Well, your Faraday room, a shielded room, or a Faraday cage around your bed will protect you from a smart meter. Smart meters, by the way, are the dumbest thing ever. Some of them are more dangerous than others, though. Some of them produce much more radiation, and some of them ping the main towers much more frequently. So smart meters are not created equal. Some of them, none of them are great, but some of them are super gnarly, and some of them just normal gnarly. But that is a radio frequency, just like your Wi-Fi or your cell signal, and that can be blocked with shielding fabric or shielding paint 100%. Yeah. And there's also kits you can buy. Like if you have a smart meter on your house, you can put, they sell these kits that you can put on top of the meter that prevents the radiation from even projecting.
People around me just think it's a great idea.
Oh yeah, no. When I see those things, I literally fantasize about taking a sledgehammer and knocking them off every house as I go down the block. Yeah, smart meters are gnarly. I've been in situations on numerous occasions where I travel somewhere and I can't sleep. I wake up sweating, my heart's beating, I'm having nightmares. I'm like, what the hell? Am I going crazy? And then I go check out and I walk outside. I'm like, a bank of smart meters. They'll make you go nuts. The ones that are really strong, some people are more sensitive than others. I'm very sensitive to them. But how I know it's not in my mind is that's happened on numerous occasions when I didn't even know there was a smart meter, so it's not placebo. It scrambles your freaking brain. Yeah, question over here?
So I'm concerned about water. So the water in Mexico makes me sick.
Mm-hmm.
The water grows the vegetables that they sell, like 80% in trade foods. What water is growing the vegetables that we're eating from Whole Foods, or is organic really organic?
Well, that's a good question. So, no, yeah, again. Yeah, well, it's very interesting. Here's the thing with organic. It's a little bit ambiguous because you can get an organic certification, but you can still use fertilizers that aren't good for you to eat in your food, right? If you think about a cucumber, how much of that cucumber is water? A lot of it. So what's the source of that water? Now, it could be said that the root system of a plant is going to filter out a lot of the contaminants present in even organic fertilizer. That, what do they call, PK something? Anyway, it's a synthetic fertilizer, not like manure is a great fertilizer, right? That's why we'd really be screwed if the whole world went vegan, because you couldn't grow vegetables, by the way. You need animals to make plants, just as an aside. They make fertilizer. It's how nature operates. So the fertilizer and pesticides or not, whatever they're using to grow, can then enter into the plant. And maybe that's why you're noticing that, because there's more toxic fertilizers, even though they can be labeled as organic. So, well, I'm not sure. I bet it's probably both. It's the water that's being used, like irrigation water is really toxic water. Here's the thing, like you can have a certified organic farm, right? And they're doing everything above board, but where's their water coming from? Their water's passing through all of these irrigation systems for miles and miles and tons of farms and being recycled, and a lot of things present in the water, such as pesticides and synthetic fertilizers and things like that, are probably ending up in that plant matter. Yeah, I think so.
Everything around the tar pits, like you mentioned, Equinox,
yeah.
Filter. Anything around the tar pits, because the tar started to leak into the pipes, all the water is triple filtered over there.
Oh, interesting.
And all of the restaurants. Like if you have
that's where I live.
You've tasted like the water there. It's actually.
I haven't tasted the water. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, well, that's the Equinox I'm talking about. Is the one in Miracle Mile right there by the tar pits. And they're like, are you kidding? No, we're triple filter. We get it. But yeah, that's interesting. But here's the thing with plants, eating plants and vegetables and stuff and wanting to get ones that are, the ones that you're wanting to get more safe is if you go to the farmer's market and you get from small producers, they're less likely to be commodity vegetables where they're using really crappy fertilizers and using large irrigation water systems and things like that. You can find farmers from Ojai Valley, and you can really grill them. I mean, I'm that nerd who's like, hey, what kind of fertilizer do you use? Is it manure or is it synthetic? Where's the water come from? So you can do your due diligence and just grill your farmer at the farmer's market until you find those ones that you really like and develop a relationship with them. Same with animal products. I don't buy meat from like, oh, Whole Foods, yeah, I trust your standards. Hell no. I've been to the farm where I get all my meat. I've met the animals and seen what they eat and the water they drink, and the whole operation's legit. It's called Bel Campo. Okay, last question. Do you still have it?
Only if you want to talk about water.
Yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
Glacial water, way cleaner than spring water.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, you know, that's true. I forgot about that. It's something I don't know a lot about, but glacial water is ultimately filtered. I mean, it's a maximum filter. What's really cool about glacier water that I do know, and you can get bottled water that's glacial spring water, essentially, you know, or whatever they call it. That would be up in the platinum level, I would say, depending on the type of packaging, etc. What's interesting about glacial water is it's got very low levels of deuterium that probably no one knows what that is, because I just learned a month ago. You know about it? Yeah, it's next level. And glacier water, because it goes through so many cycles of thawing and freezing and thawing and freezing and all that craziness that's produced in nature, it's some of the lowest water on the planet in deuterium. Deuterium is a molecule that's natural in nature that's bad for you if it accumulates too much. It's present in most crappy water in great abundance. But yeah, you're right. That's something I don't know a lot about, but I would agree, yeah.
And solids.
What's that?
And total dissolved solids. Total dissolved solids.
Yeah. Total dissolved solids is lower, right? Lower minerals.
Glacial water is like 4 parts per million, whereas spring water is like 140 to 400 or something.
Yeah, what he's talking about is total dissolved solids. That's the mineral content. Like Mountain Valley, you know, the green bottled water is like, yeah, that's good water. It's in glass. It's from a spring. It's actually not from a spring. It's from an aquifer. It's well water. It's clean. It's legit. It's good. But it's got a TDS, a total dissolved solid, of about 340 parts per million, which is a lot. That's why if you boil Mountain Valley water in a pot and you let it evaporate, you'll have this white chalky film on your finger. That ends up in your body and in your joints, and depending on your vitamin K2 levels and a number of different circumstances present in your body at any given time, that stuff builds up within your body, and it's called calcification. So what he's talking about is glacial water is the lowest in minerals. The very lowest water and minerals in the world would be distilled water, because all of the minerals, 100% of them, have been removed. Some geek even told me that you couldn't electrocute yourself if you were in a bath of distilled water and you threw a hairdryer in it. I'm not trying it. But the theory was that because there's no minerals in the water, there's no electrolytes in the water. That's why they're called electrolytes. Electrolytes are minerals. They're conductive. They carry a current. It's really interesting stuff. What's that? The bathtub's metal. Yeah. I mean, don't do that, please. You know, these guys are going to get sued. Yeah. End of talk, Luke. End of talk. But the idea there is that water that's low in minerals is the best water, and I'm sure glacial water is amazing, yeah. Okay, so I think that's about it, you guys. We're going to wrap it up. Listen, I want to thank Next Health for having me, and I want to thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate it. Yeah. Super, super fun. Thanks, Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Luke. Just a couple quick announcements for you guys. First off, again, just thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge. I know I feel like I have a ton of work cut out for myself. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. But the great thing about this is, there's individuals like Luke and others that we invite here that have spent 20 plus years figuring all this out, instill this knowledge to us so that we can implement in our lives. And it's all about healthy habits, and that's what we try to do here in Next Health, is give you guys the ability of taking an active role in your health, and you want to make it as easy as possible. So while some of this stuff sounds difficult, the reality is it's like once you do it, you can kind of set it and forget it for a lot of the stuff. So it's just, you just got to, you have to take those steps and not make yourself crazy, but take the steps to set yourself up for success as much as possible. Most of the people I know here, is anyone's first time here at Next Health? Or you guys all, oh wow, good amount of people, welcome. To give you guys just a very quick overview of what we do, we're a health optimization center, the first of its kind. We use the latest technology from cryotherapy, IV therapy, hormone optimization, stem cells, biomarker testing, and more for you to optimize and take your health to the next level. So we test all body systems, genetics, food sensitivities, micronutrients, hormone levels to see exactly what's going on internally, and then we can custom tailor the services based on what you need. So, you know, we invite all you guys to try out some services. We'll leave a stack of cryo vouchers so everyone can take one of those and give you a free cryotherapy session to come in and try that out. But we'd love to have you guys in here and
don't trip on that. Like, take one of those flyers. Their cryo is amazing. I just want to give a quick plug, and I don't get anything out of plugging it. You could do cryo anywhere, but these guys have the best cryo for a number of reasons. One is it's a whole body chamber, so you walk in the whole thing. It's not one of those tubes where your head sticks out. To me, those suck because I want my head to get cold. Again,
it's where the majority of your temperature receptors are.
Yeah, and in nature, hello, like we wouldn't be out in the tundra, freaking Antarctica in some cold, you know, you get what I'm saying. But then what's also great about it is it's cold air. Most other cryo systems are liquid nitrogen.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's less natural. Cold air, you hop in here, it literally feels like somebody just dropped you on a glacier and you're in a windstorm and it's snowing. It actually feels natural. It's hardcore, it's intense, but it's the most natural cryo to me.
Negative 160 degrees, so just a little chilly for you guys.
I do their cryo probably 3 days a week on average. Some weeks even more. What's dope about cryo too is it's super fast. I mean, you get the effects fast, and if you're someone who has a hardcore aversion to cold, it's 3.5 minutes. Like, you can do anything for 3.5 minutes. Imagine when you zone out on Instagram for like 20 minutes, you're like, whoa, where'd I go? You know, you can do that. You can do 3.5 minutes. When you do an ice bath, typically you're going to stay in there longer. And ice baths I love, but it's going to hurt more for longer. And you're also going to be cold for a much longer time afterward. I like both, but cryo is like more for busy people, which is why I like it. So there's my plug.
Yeah, and also we have a great partnership with Equinox, and we're doing a group class on Friday at the Equinox Century City. So we have a couple slots still open, I think like 5 or 8 slots open. So if anyone wants to join, Vanessa is over there. Just let her know, she can put you guys on the list, but we're doing like a pop-up recovery lounge, so you guys are welcome to come do the class. It's going to be a high-intensity class, and then we're doing cryofacials and Normatec compression pants. And that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for coming. Have an amazing day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Right on. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.